I'm Mike, and welcome back to one of my auto repair videos. This video is another in the series of replacing all the AC components in Noffice's Honda Generation Insight Generation 2, which applies to 2009 to 2014 models. And we're doing this all to fix his AC system. This step is installing the condenser. It's very simple to install the condenser. We have the new condenser right here, which I'll take out right now. One thing I'm worried about right now is that you can see it looks a bit warped, but it shouldn't be a big issue when we replace it. So I'm going to move this aside so we can get a bit of comparison. This is the old the old condenser, and this is the new condenser. One thing we're going to do is look at our part to make sure that there might be things that we have to remove. In our case, we have a cover that goes on each port that we're going to end up needing to remove later. We'll keep the bolts. We just have to take off the bolts, take off the cover, and then put the bolts back on. And I'm just comparing it with the old one. One thing I noticed is the old one has these rubber grommets. So we're going to need to salvage that in a bit. It's a bit hard to do on camera right now. But you'll also need to look in your system and make sure that you have these rubber grommets installed at the bottom as well, where the condenser was before. I forgot to specify that in my previous video, but I hope you kept them in there. So we're going to move the old grommets to the new ones. The cover is there for a reason, to prevent it from being contaminated. So we're going to install it with the cover on right now and remove it later. So if you watched my removal video, then you'll remember it was pretty easy to remove it. So we're going to do the same thing, but in reverse. And before you do this, you just want to make sure you have those L brackets on hand. These ones, because they will slip on these at the end. Okay, and so we're going to put a piece of foam in there just in case I drop it. Not required, but it's late at night right now, so just in case, we want to be as careful as possible. We're trying to make sure we don't damage the tubing on the condenser. So you want to aim for the holes and make sure that both of them are aligned. There we go. And so it's inserted on both sides. It's now just wiggling on there. So now we're going to take our brackets from both sides. I'm going to do this one at a time. I'm also going to note that both of the brackets seem to be identical. But just in case, I put the passenger side on the passenger side and the driver side on the driver side. And the way it's going to work is we're going to put this hole first down, bend it towards the front, and rotate it. Now you can see it's ready to receive that grommet. And I guess what you could do is just put it under right now, since this is not blocking our way. Okay, and while I'm here, I need to see it goes in there. So I'm going to hang it here right now, and I'm going to go grab the bolt. Okay, so it appears we don't have the original bolts that were on here because they're different lengths, but we're just going to set aside for now because, they're all interchangeable. Bolts can go with bolts as long as they fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the condenser back, line up the metal bracket, and then line this up as well. Now this is where it gets difficult, and we could make this easier by peeling this plastic away, but that requires some screws at the bottom that we have to unscrew. So I'm going to try my best to do this by hand. If it falls, it will fall on the splash guard, which wouldn't be too hard to recover, but this is very tricky. You see this? And you can't even see it because the light is not at a perfect angle for me to show you. Can you do a overhead directly? Top? Okay, there we go. So now it's going in. I'm gonna turn a few threads. And you can see just the way my finger is oriented, it's difficult. Okay. And there we go. We can tighten it right now. If you're worried, we are still able to fit the bracket onto the passenger side, so it shouldn't be an issue if we screw it in now. But because I'm just worried that it's going to fall while I'm doing it, I'm gonna tighten it. And I have to do it further by hand because the ratchet isn't engaging. Well, now that I have it further threaded in, I can tighten it later. Okay, so let's go on to the passenger side. First, what we're going to do is take the bracket. This is where it's important to be able to finagle it downwards. And then you can go around to the bottom. All right, I guess you could insert it through here. And you want to feel around for the grommet. Could you move the light right here? Okay. And you want to feel around and put the bracket by its hole. You see this circular hole on top of the grommet. And okay, it's on. So coming on from this side, now we can line this up. And it's fitting on properly, but now we can see that the hole is misaligned, so maybe I have to push this down. Oh, okay, so I do have to push it down. It looks like it wasn't fully seated at the bottom, and there's a bit of, suspensionness to give you that leeway. Now, it's at the proper height for me to screw this in. This one's also going to be a pain, so wish me luck. But this one actually, I can go from the bottom. Oh. Okay. Okay, and so now I'm going to tighten it with a spanner. Driver's side. You're kidding me. I didn't hand tighten it enough by hand, but I'll do it on this side. And I'll tighten the other one off camera. All right, and it's fully tightened. I'm gonna guess that all we need to go for is snug. This is not something that would be easy to torque, obviously, because it's really hard to access these. So I'm not sure that a specific torque is required, so we're just gonna go for snug plus an eighth of a turn. So now we're going to turn our attention to these ports right here. So I can already tell that we should try doing the bottom one first, just because it's going to be hard to do. Actually, no, it doesn't matter which order we do, but we're going to do the bottom first because it seems like it would be harder to get. We're going to take off the covers, make sure we keep the bolts, and then we're going to take the hoses and reinstall them. So the high pressure hose goes to the top port, and this line here, which is meant to carry fluid, goes to the bottom port. And this one, you can tell it goes to the bottom port because it's very rigid. It's hard to remove from here. Let's remove that bolt. Okay, so that came as a shock to me, but in assessing the situation a bit more, this is good. The fact that when we unscrew it, you heard that burst of air means that the air inside was compressed, which means that our condenser must be working properly. So we're going to take that cover out and continue. Actually, you don't even need to take the cover out because it just blew itself off. This is quite a different bolt. It's a bit shorter than the ones that we had already, but we're going to line up the this line. And can you shine the light? You could replace the O-ring. Okay, so we are going to replace the O-ring on this because this is going to be much harder to get to once we have the radiator back on. And we're going to use a Honda Genuine O-ring. None of that aftermarket business, because then you have to spend all the time, you know, comparing it, and it might not even fit properly and stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put it in the PAG oil, PAG 46 oil, and move it around a bit. And then I'm going to recover the O-ring from here. So this is a bit difficult. And so as you can see, it just completely disappeared. And what the heck? And so it's okay because we're replacing it anyway, but you should be a bit more careful when you're removing the O-ring, especially because you don't want to hit the condenser and accidentally break it. But I hope it didn't go into any important place that it could clog up anything, but that's very unlikely. We're going to take our O-ring and we're going to install it. Okay. So I'm going to get my hands in there. And make sure you have clean hands so you don't get any contaminants on the O-ring. But you're going to want to slot it around the hole and stretch it. This might be easier to do with a better angle, but I'm trying to show you guys at the same time. There we go. So now you can see that the O-ring is on. I didn't mention it before, but that's an 8mm O-ring. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to reinstall it. We're not going to use the bolt that it came with because, as you can see, it's too short to actually fit in. And it doesn't even penetrate this metal tab here. And so I'm going to find the original bolt and put it back on. All right, so we're going to put the line back in. So we're going to reconnect it. Might need to move it around a bit. All right. And it's gonna move it around a bit just to properly seat it. Okay, so we finally managed to get it in off camera. Just gotta make sure that it's basically flush. And now you can insert the bolt and tighten it. This one we have to do using a spanner because the Milwaukee won't fit down there. It's very tight. Okay, so just make sure that as you're tightening it, you might need to readjust the pipe so that it's able to get in all the way. You don't want to see any gaps. That means that it's not fully tight, it's not fully sealed. But as you can see, right now the way we have it, looks good. So now we're going to move our attention to the top. This one has a bit lesser stakes because we're going to end up replacing this hose anyway. But we're still going to do it right. Okay, so I have it right here. I'm going to leave it there. Let's take off that bolt and cast it aside because it's not long enough. They should have just given us replacement bolts if they're just going to do this. But I'm going to take this off, and we might have to pry that off. I wonder if it's compressed in there. But I mean, we already released all the air before, so it would make sense if there isn't. And also that, yeah, okay. So we're going to line this up. Normally you'd want to replace the O-ring, like I mentioned before, but we're not going to replace it until next time when we have the O-rings and when we have a new hose. Okay, so we changed our mind. We're actually going to try to put oil on it. And the reason why is because we want to try putting refrigerant back in and seeing if it'll work. So just to help that go along, we'll create that seal again with this O-ring and put it back. Oh, that was dangerous. I could have lost that. When you're working late at night, a lot more mistakes can happen. Now you can see it's back on. I'm going to move this away. And we're going to properly seat this inside of here. Alright. So now that that's aligned, we're going to take our bolt. We're going to insert it. And try to screw it in. This one, it's a bit hard to tell when it's aligned fully because ours is broken. But okay, sometimes you'll have to wiggle it just to get the proper angle. Okay, so now we can tighten the bolt. Alright, and as you can see, that hose is on there properly. Whew. Okay, and so with that being done, I believe that's all we need to do to have the the condenser fully installed. And that includes the dryer as well, which, where's our old dryer? Right there. You might want to take off this black strip right here and glue it onto the new dryer. Okay, so that's all for this video. I'm Iman, and today I showed you how to install the condenser for a second generation Honda Insight. Next, what's gonna come next is we're going to install the radiator. So go check out that video. Thanks for helping me out with the light work, Juan.
No problem.
So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Look at videos on Iman, especially the videos on this Honda Insight, and I'll see you there. But for now, I'm Iman, and signing out.